it is that 92% of Black women showed up and showed out for his opponent, who was Kamala Harris, current vice president of the U.S., first Black woman ever to be anywhere near, the White House.
Like, I've always been a smarty, arty type of child.
Right.
Very academically inclined. And they were like, why would you do that? You could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be, you went to Tisch, like, you can be a filmmaker, you can do all these other
Right,
things.
be in the arts, be movie, producing something.
And, all of those things. And I literally had to stop this person. I said, don't you want your smartest people to be the educators of your next generation?
What I find interesting is that back in the day, I think Black women, or even maybe now, are considered homogenous, that we're all the same, right?
And people were trying to like give me a nickname. They were like, her name is Kwamara. And so a lot of times I put respect on my name. Like,
exactly. It's like you can do it with, Kim Jong-il or whoever you want. Get it together. Okay, it's not that difficult.
We can all come together and love on each other as women in a space, as Black women.
Welcome back, gentle listeners. You are now tuned in to a fabulous new episode of Kushae Chronicles, where we highlight real talk, real women, and real health. My name is Kimba, the Natural Diva, and I am your amazing host. I hope you guys haven't gotten sick of me by now. Y'all gonna be sick of me, but y'all not gonna be sick of our guest. We have an amazing guest today, and I am deliciously excited to present to you the one, the only, extraordinaire herself, Ms. Kwamara Thompson. How are you, Kwamara?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Kimba. I must say you wax elegantly and poetically with amazing adjectives. Like, as an English teacher, as a former English teacher, I'm like, these are the kinds of adjectives y'all need to put in your writing so I can really feel what you're saying. Okay, anyway.
Yes. And listen, and we'll talk about that because I was in the education sector and I became known as the essay whisperer as I was helping kids get into college and writing their personal essays. And I wrote a whole book about it, the whole nine, but I became known as the essay whisperer. And it was those descriptive words that I was like, that's going to make the difference. Y'all got to make people not just read the story, they got to feel it. They got to, they got to know that they're in it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Whisperer now, right? I mean, Lord.
Yeah. We're going to be whispering because we got a lot of work to do. So, and first of all, let's, shout out to the Black Girl Cups that we got going on. We're going to talk about your brand cup and then my little, Black Girl Cup.
Listen, as long as we all doing Black Girl Magic, Black Women
Hello.
Magic.
Get this tea because the tea is hot.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know what you got in your cup, but we're not going to talk about it.
Tea sounds fine.
It's tea time somewhere, child. Yes. So anyway, Kwamara, thank you so much for being a part of the Kushae Chronicles podcast. We're going to jump right into it. Now, first of all, when I met you, I was just like, who is this woman? I saw you, probably in the span of 2 weeks and like 8 different things. And I was like, this girl is everywhere. Like, why does she keep popping up? And it's just so hard to miss you. You've got such a distinct personality and style. Let's get into it. Like when I saw the afro, I was like, come on, Miss King. Because, it reminds everybody of Mr. Don King back in the day. Yes. He had the free-flowing afro. His wasn't as coiffed. So let's go there. His was freestyle for real. But I've seen you with, this beautiful afro, this expression of Black girl magic, the fact that our hair continues to just rise, whether we want it to or not, right? And I think that's what we want our spirits to do. It rises. You've got the glasses. You've always wore either ties or bow ties, not bow ties, ties or some kind of. Have you done bow ties?
Yes, I have. Not so often, but you will catch me at a bow tie. And I think I had a bow tie one time when we were hanging out at some point in time together.
Probably. And we're not gonna talk about how we be hanging out in crazy places and crazy spaces, but the earrings. Okay, so tell me, we're gonna start with your eclectic style, and then we'll talk about what it is that you do today. But where does this style come from? Because so many of us are afraid of expressing our own sense of style. Where does this come from, and where does the confidence to do that come from?
I have to say this harkens back to my mom. She dresses, I think, generally speaking, pretty. First of all, both my parents are extremely well, like they're amazing at their dress, their style. Everyone who meets my parents are like, "Your." That's one of the first things that they say. Your parents are so well dressed. I mean, and they are usually dressed to the nines, even when they're casual. I don't think I've seen either one of them in a pair of jeans in my life. I mean, they're very much. My mother loves wearing dresses, and my father wears his slacks, and he has like little different hats that he wears.
Ooh,
This is in his like retirement life. So I mean, they are really dressed to the nines, even just when they're hanging out casually. My mother loves colors. Red is one of her favorite colors. Um, but I say that to say that in general, especially my mother's side of the family, dressing and expressing yourself through accessories and through color, through your heels, your scarves. I don't wear makeup, but my aunts wear makeup and things of that nature has always been something that was instilled, I guess, in them as a way to express who they were. And through osmosis.
right. Whether you
Finally,
wanted to or not.
I started to kind of like experiment. Obviously, when I was younger, my mother dressed me, but eventually she allowed me to sort of play around my own style. I was much more of a tomboy. That being said, I would still
Mm,
have like shorts and sneakers that matched each other, sunglasses that always matched my outfits. I had little
yes.
afro when I was a kid, and like all a bunch of different things that I was doing and experimenting with. And I remember in high school, I was going through a phase where I loved bell bottoms, so I was wearing bell bottom pants and collar the boots and like a little beret. I mean, you couldn't tell me nothing, okay?
At all. Not the beret and bell bottoms. Come on, boo.
Yes, yes, yes. And we'll get into this, but you mentioned that I grew up, rather upper middle class, and
Right.
so I did have like a preppy style that I enjoyed wearing. Looking like Carlton, putting on my little sweaters, and I still do that to this day. Put the sweaters over, looking little polo. It has a little
Right.
more flavor to it nowadays.
They'll
But
be
yeah,
like, who's she trying to be?
I think I've always sort of expressed myself, and I always want things to feel authentically me. And a part of that is also I never liked spending a lot of time in the salon like that. I was
Mm.
like, this is the bane of my existence, Mom. Why are we spending hours in the salon getting my hair done on a Saturday? I'm like, there's a million and one other things I could be doing.
Literally.
So okay, and then like when you were younger, sitting between your mom's legs and getting your hair done. I'm like, oh god, child. So
The tugging and the
yes,
brushing and the
yes, the whole
oh
nine yards. So my first quote unquote lazy, I don't want to say lazy because it actually was much more to maintain than I thought it was going to be. But I was like,
mm,
I'm gonna go with locks, and I started locking my hair when I was 19, and they grew all the way down to my butt. And then after
wow.
a while, I just was like, let me cut them off, and I had like a mohawk, I had a crew cut, I had a ballsy. I mean, I did all kind of weird stuff with my hair. But then finally, I was like, I'm just gonna let it grow, and naturally, people always ask me, what do I do to make my hair this way? It naturally grows against gravity.
Oh,
Um,
literally.
it just naturally does that. So, in the morning I just brush it up and just call it a day. Sometimes I feel like, twisting it out at night. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just putting this satin cap on. We're calling it a day. Like,
Right.
we want
Sometimes
to
you
do
feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Okay.
right. Like sometimes it's going to be low maintenance. And so there are, it shapes its own self. I don't go and get it shaped and lined up. And, I'm just like, this is the hair that the universe gave me, and we gonna go with it. We gonna
We
love
gonna make it work.
it. Every minute of it.
She's just like, hello. This is how it's like she's
Exactly.
just got her arms up and
And sometimes we be fighting because I'm like, sometimes at the end of the day, I got this little piece that just likes to fall down a little bit. I'm like, what are you doing, back piece? But it is what it is. That's what she want to do. That's what she want to do. She living
well,
her
listen. Exactly. And I think, black women have come to realize that we have a multitude of textures on the one head. Do you know what I mean? You've got areas that are softer, less
best. Right.
kinky, less wavy, more curly, all over. So you can, girl, you're going to have that little dangly piece at the back.
It's
Because
like
that's who she is. Like, it is what it is.
it's gonna be there. It's just gonna be there.
I got pieces that lock better than others. And I'm like, come on,
Exactly.
y'all.
Exactly.
Like,
You already know what it's like.
let's get it
My
together. I need y'all to lock at all uniformly. And they just don't,
they
and they
don't.
won't. And it's okay.
And it's okay. And I think
That's
that's like the
okay.
beauty of it, and like just letting it be natural. And people, oh, what do you do with your hair? I'm like, listen, I listen to it. I listen to what it wants. I listen to
Right.
what it's looking for. Of course, I wash, condition it, but do it with like natural products.
Nice.
Coconut oil, mango, like
Hmm.
olive oil, mayonnaise mixed together. I mean, not that I'm making them, but I'm buying the products that way.
Yes. Let's
Let me
support. Let's support the product makers.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
And make it do what it do.
anything if I see something that I can't pronounce, it's not going in the hair. It has to be the right natural.
Boom. That part. Exactly. And what I found with natural hair, because I similar to you, obviously I'm in my lock journey now, and I've been here for about 7 years. But before that, it was just afro, shortcut, whatever, do what it do, bebop, doo wop.
Exactly.
And I found that it just presents itself best when it's less manipulated. So it's just like, leave me alone. That's my texture. My head, my hair is like, girl, just leave me alone. Let me do what I want to do. So I found that this was the easiest for me because don't let me wake up with a big fro, girl. By the end of the day, it's a teeny tiny one. I'm like, well, where did you go, girl? Like, she is not, she not working with
Oh, listen,
it.
we live in Florida too with that
That
humidity, that
humidity.
shrinkage be real. Sometimes I used to spend my time like blow drying my hair, blow dry to make it nice and big, the crown. And then I get back home and I'm like,
Wah,
put it
wah,
up,
wah. You're like,
I can't. I can't. But it's so funny. I hop in the schools and I do educate. We'll get into this too, but my
Right.
bread and butter is in education. So I'm back to doing some school contracts. And the kids are like, "Did you blow dry your hair this morning, Miss?" And I was like, "No, this is just." They're like, "How is your hair so full?" They literally think that I like blow dried, and I'm like, "Nah, I
Right.
just roll out the bed. I want to be like, I just roll out the bed, put my little oils on it, call it."
And call it a day. And sometimes it's about training it, right? So you may have done it in initially or just picked her out and made her kind of like learn how we gonna work together in this thing called life. And your hair will learn and it does, you can train it. But it's funny that you mentioned education and I'm, dying to get into all of the things, but I want to talk about what you're doing right now, which is creating amazing spaces for Black women. So what I find interesting is that back in the day, I think Black women, or even maybe now, are considered homogenous, that we're all the same, right?
Mhm.
And looking at your sense of style and even just me today, we're not the same, right? We all have a different sense of everything from our perspectives to how we grew up and all of that. You mentioned earlier, we'll talk about the fact that you grew up in an upper middle class family, right? Your parents were professionals, big time professionals. And some of us are like, listen, my mom was a single parent and, working on a dollar and a dream. You know what I mean? And yet we still have at the end of the day some of the same challenges and the same struggles. So talk a little bit about your upbringing and then why you created this space for Black women and making sure that the world knew that we mattered.
Yeah. So I don't want to say long story short, but maybe. Um,
Cliche.
I mean, I think that ultimately, and this actually really starts with my work in education.
Yeah.
So I went to New York University to School of the Arts, number one art school in the world. Hello.
Woo woo. Okay, so wait, no, because you done flew by it like it was nothing. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is NYU. Let's get it together. And go purple. What do y'all? What's y'all mascot? I don't even know for
It's
NYU.
the
Do y'all?
violence. I mean, we're not like a sports
Yeah.
team. It's the violence. Wait, I
They're
was
like,
like,
we don't need
hold
one.
up, hold up.
We don't need one. We NYU. What you talking about?
We NYU, okay, a private university in a public space. Boo, boo,
Boom.
boo. That's all
Right. Washington Park. What's up? Get it together. Like,
right.
boom.
Okay, okay.
All right, the heart of Manhattan, NYU, Tisch School of the Arts. Like, this is prestigious. This is amazing. Your parents are phenomenal. Talk about your parents' careers. What do your mom and dad do?
Yeah, so they're retired currently, but my mom was an OBGYN, so obstetrician gynecologist, pretty much specialized in high risk pregnancy, so maternal fetal medicine specialist, perinatalogist, one of the few highly specialized Black women in the
Wow.
world as a maternal fetal medicine specialist, perinatalogist. And she helped to build out the perinatology department at Morristown. Well, at the time was called Morristown Memorial Hospital, but now it is now Morristown Medical Center, which is considered one of the top school, one of the top hospitals in
Hmm.
the world for high risk pregnancies.
Wow.
So we were somewhat famous in our town because my mom had delivered so many babies. So people would
Right.
literally, I would just be walking around with my friends, just chilling and be like, "Oh, are you Dr. Jackson's daughter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They'll be like, "Oh, she delivered," and then they hear the kids are, "She delivered." So
Johnny, Taquisha, Lawrence, Jessica. You like, okay.
I was like, all right, cool, cool, cool. And, so my mom obviously loved to be part of the journey of helping a woman give birth. And you
Right.
can imagine having a mom who's an OBGYN, obstetrician, who really was the first in her side of the family who went not only went to college but went to an Ivy League university, Yale University, where she met my father. And she was originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, so that was really the first time
Mm,
she had traveled so far from home,
right.
other than certain trips to Mississippi to see my grandfather's side of the family. Um, and so you can imagine that having that type of independent thinking
Mm,
woman as your mom, like,
right.
and then who also is very steeped and knowledgeable in women's health care and women's rights, you just kind of get into that as a child, and you start thinking about that. So simultaneously, my dad is a retired lawyer, even though actually he's retired, but he still consults and sits on a whole bunch of
Oh, I'm
boards. You know how they do,
sure.
lower child. But he,
You're like,
he ended
Daddy,
his
come on.
career as um, senior vice president and general counsel for the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. If you know anything about DTCC, they are the
Mhm.
clearinghouse that allows for the New York Stock Exchange to make all of those trades. So everybody who's
Wow.
talking about the stocks, they have to go through a clearinghouse. And so basically, he had a very high profile job, if you can imagine, on Wall Street. To me, he's just my father, but to everybody
Right.
else, Larry Thompson. Uh,
LT, that's the man right there, LT.
but they were very, so they wanted us to live a very good lifestyle. We lived in the suburbs of New Jersey. I was born in New York City, but we moved to the suburbs of New Jersey.
Mm,
Went to private school, the whole 9 yards. Even in all of that, though, my parents were very clear, like you're black, and so we had like a
right.
lot of pro-black literature. I was reading Franz Fanon and Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Mm,
and Cornel West, and my even I mean this is like in the 80s, right? My mom was making sure she's buying us black dolls, as many black dolls as she could find, and like
yes.
black puzzles and books, and all the things to make sure that we were clear in our heritage. And she hated when people were trying to like give me a nickname. They were like, her name is Kwamara. And so a lot of
Right.
I mean, very rarely do I allow people to call me a nickname. I'm very clear, like, my name is Kumara. My mom was very thoughtful about putting this name together. We are not going to butcher it or make a nickname because you don't want us to figure out the time to learn how to, put respect on my name. Like,
Exactly. It's like you could do it with, Kim Jong Il or whoever you want. Get it together. Okay, it's not that difficult. And to give you such a strong, very black identifying name, I mean, your parents were so intentional, which I love, right? Particularly being in environments where you're probably one of a few or one of none, to be
right,
honest,
right.
right?
Very
Mm,
intentional in those ways. So I always felt safe. And to your point about like how come you dress the way you dress and all that, my parents always made me feel safe being who I was. They
right.
never were like trying to make me conform. I mean, obviously, yes, I had to learn how to live in a space and be empathetic to other people, and know how to navigate social situations, but still being true to who I was as a human being. And I think sometimes they look and think to themselves, we might have created too much of an independent.
Of an anomaly. They're like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I remember when I first started locking my hair, they were like, listen, we pro black, but because I was
They were
doing
like,
it when
pound to
people
the
were not even
people.
thinking about I mean, this was in the early 2000s, okay, of 2000.
Mm,
No, nobody thinking about locking their hair,
at
unless you
all.
were like a roster or something. And they were
Right.
like, so you just regular black girl on the street who want to lock her hair? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, no, that was not, we were not doing that at all. I know your parents were like, okay, I think we provided a little too much rope for this one.
Right. So I say that to say that the safety of being able to find who I was, find my voice, having that beautiful environment where I knew that I could safely, productively fail, and my parents would love me no matter what, even in
Mm,
moments where I was might have been a disappointment or was disappointed in myself or whatever the case may have been. And when I started working with students, so this is my point. When I went to NYU, I started working in education and in after school programs in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Then Saturdays I went and
mm,
worked with students in Flushing, Queens. And then in the summertime, I was working at science camps in suburban New York, New Jersey, like Rockland County, et cetera, up in
right.
New York. So what I was realizing was that the only difference between these students were really the zip code in which they were born into, in terms of like
Right.
what kind of access they had, in terms of what kind of home environments they went back to. And when I graduated NYU, I decided, I don't know if I was decided or it was decided for me, but I became, we could talk about that. That's a whole nother, maybe that's a whole nother podcast. And I remember people saying, Kumar, you graduated NYU cum laude, you won. I won a whole bunch of academic awards when I graduated high school, eighth grade. Like I've always been a smarty, arty type of child,
Right.
very academically inclined. And they were like, why would you do that? You could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be, you went to Tisch, like you can be a filmmaker, you can do all these other
Right.
things.
Be in the arts, be movie
You
producing
move in and
something.
all of those things. And I literally had to stop this person. I said, don't you want your smartest people to be the educators of your next generation? And like that thinking
Boom.
is so backwards here in the United States. And we still are a product of that backwards thinking. That's one of the things that I want to change just holistically.
Right.
But when I started really working, especially in urban environments with students that looked a lot like me, but had never met a real life, they're like, my God, Miss Thompson, you're real life Cosby Show. And I
Right.
didn't shy away
Literally.
from telling them this information because I wanted them to know, like, yeah, this is not just a fantasy. This could really be our reality. There are
Hmm.
people who exist. Everything is not just poverty when it relates to Black folk. And I think that that's one of the misnomers that we have here in the United States and outside. There's an ideology that everybody Black is poor. I'm like, that's not, unless you're a celebrity, that's not even true. So I
Right.
was like, I don't, I was like, I wanted to change that stereotype. So that's one. But when I was really getting to know my students, what I realized is that they had no place that they felt safe. They didn't have
Mm,
a home that they felt safe at. They didn't have an environment where they felt safe. And so my classroom became that environment for my students. And I would have
mm,
students who would stay after school, who would do all kinds of different things. And they would literally come together and we would have like we call it our circle of soul. The kids would have made
mm,
it up on their own. And I just was kind of there. And they would have these moments of laughter of joy, but also just some of the emotions that they have to sort of bottle up because they have
right.
to walk through the streets a certain way.
Of course.
Home, they have to be a certain way. And to know that you could create those spaces. And then we had students who were part of the LGBTQ family, and our administration was not supportive of that. We
I'm
had people
sure.
who were trans, and before we actually even really knew what trans was,
Right.
right? But like, I fought for them to be like able to use the nurses room and all of those things, nurses restroom, so they didn't have to
Right.
use a gender specific restroom, and we had to fight hard for that. And we're still having these conversations. I can't believe it, like 15 years.
Literally. I was going to say 15, 20 years later, here we are still fighting over like who has rights and who doesn't.
Yeah. So
That's
just
crazy.
insane, the work that we were able to do.
Right. Right.
It was beautiful. And so all that to say that I've realized that people need safe spaces, period.
Right. Exactly. And I
And
think that's a great segue to, so I want to kind of just highlight what you were saying in that, first of all, Black children, or, and because that's our experience, we're going to focus on Black children who are at a certain socioeconomic level, essentially will never be exposed on a personal level to anybody outside of their band, right? So when you think about it, the kids sometimes who actually aspire to do more than maybe they've seen their parents do tend to want to be pediatricians because that's the only other professional that they've met. Do you know what I mean? And so it was just kind of eye opening for me when you said that. Like, they're not going to meet somebody that's been a lawyer because when do they interact with lawyers, right? When do they interact with tech startup founders? When do they interact with any of these other people that seem so normalized in other ecosystems but will never be a part of their own? Like, that to me is like, OMG. And even for me, growing up in sort of a middle class family, but never having exposure until I got to college. And that's only because I went. Some of these
right,
kids aren't going. So you imagine their ecosystems are never going to expand past who's on the block. You know what
mm,
I'm saying? And who on the block knows somebody that knows somebody. But that's, ugh, it's devastating. It's literally devastating. And to think that anybody else upwards of their band really is not going to have a hand in helping them navigate life because they just won't have access to them.
yeah,
And that's sad. Like you said, that's sad. And for them to see you as like, oh my gosh, like your mom is a doctor, while your dad is a lawyer, and then they know you and they see you every single day. Like, you're not some celebrity, you're not some anomaly, like you're Miss Thompson.
right. I'm Miss Thompson. And even they sometimes they'll be
Wow.
like, Miss Thompson, why are you a teacher? Like, you're super smart. I'm like,
See,
You know,
even them, but we've all been. This paradigm has to shift, child. It literally used to go from here to like there.
yeah, this idea that educators shouldn't be educated, I just is
That's
amazing.
the that's the oxymoron. It's kind of like, why would you have an educated educator? You're like, wait, what? Like the fuck? Like, ugh, listen, I'm about to get raw on this little podcast. All
Okay.
right, so then we go from that, and to me, it's a full circle moment for you because not only did you start your career as an educated educator, shout out to the educated educators, creating this safe space for these young children, and you were elementary. Were you elementary school?
I started in elementary, but then I went
Yes.
pretty quickly into high school. I do like my older
I love the high
teenagers.
schools. Ooh, I
Yeah,
love the high school.
yeah.
Ooh, because you can get real and raw with those
Yes,
mofos. I
exactly.
love
Especially
it.
with Soul, the Circle of Soul. It was, like I said, LGBTQ, transgender, um,
Right.
running the gamut. But yeah, that was in high school.
High school, right. When people are starting to articulate kind of who they are and they're starting to figure that out. So you
Right.
go from creating a safe space for them to ultimately where you are today and creating safe spaces for Black women. So talk about, we jumping all over the place, y'all. So y'all stay with us. But talk about that piece because I think, this, and depending on where everybody's coming from, it's 2024. We're going to set the stage. We just had general elections, primary elections, and we found out that Donald J. Trump
Right.
is going to be the next president. He's about to be inaugurated in January of 2025. And the climate, this is going to be like a time capsule for people who are just listening for 10 years later. The climate is that 92% of Black women showed up and showed out for his opponent, who was Kamala Harris, current vice president of the US, first Black woman ever to be anywhere near, the White House.
Yes.
And it was a huge, I would say, disappointment, dejection, and just a stab in the back. Black women felt like we showed up for the group project, we did our part, and everybody else didn't. Black men showed up at what I think 78% or something like that, and everybody else basically failed the assignment. Y'all got D's and F's. Okay,
Bas-
if the percentages were numbers, we got the A.
That's right.
The fuck y'all was doing, I don't know. We got the A. The Black women got the A, and y'all failed. Like you failed the assignment. And
Yeah.
so, as a group project, if they fail, we fail. And you have this space around Black women mattering. You have had this space for some time. Talk about how that started and why it's even more so important now. Because baby, I need a space. You know.
Yeah. So it really it started informally, just me wanting to hang out and be and create spaces for my fellow Black women. But I didn't really think of it that way. I was just like, hey, y'all want to just do happy hour?
Y'all
Let's
want to
do
get an appetizer?
have a little drink or whatever. And I started doing that, New Jersey, New York, and then I don't know if I mentioned, I also lived in Tennessee for a little while,
Mm,
in Nashville, Tennessee. So I started doing that in Nashville, and then
mm,
I had clients in Memphis, and then I was in Memphis, started doing that in Memphis, and of course I have family in New Orleans, so do that in New Orleans when I show up,
yes.
and so just always, and I fly around all the time, so I would always just create these sort of organic spaces.
Hmm.
But as Thompson Education Consulting, my firm that has been around since 2013. So shout out, yeah, yeah,
Shout
yeah.
out to Tech. Hey.
12th year next year. We were making a lot of money when we first started, and I
Mhm.
was like, what do I want to do with this extra money besides living the lifestyle of which I like to live? But I still had extra extra dough, right? So like, I was like, what can happen here? And of course, I invested in real estate and things for myself and for my family, and just making sure that that's okay.
Right.
But then I decided I wanted to invest back into my communities, into my people. And so before I knew anything about angel investing, I was just literally giving out money to Black and Brown businesses, primarily women,
Nice.
etc. And then right before the pandemic, and so let me swing back. I went to NYU School of the Arts. I love writing. I am a huge theater performing arts person. And so I invested in two Black women playwrights in 2019, 2018, 2019. And
Mm,
we had plays going on in off Broadway and in the East Village of New York City.
nice.
And as part of that, because I had this idea of like bringing sexy back to the theater, we
Hmm.
would have these talkbacks at the end. But like to get people excited, we would do these town halls where we would have Black business vendors, where we would have conversation around what are the things that are happening in our Black communities, primarily Black women, and what are the things that what was happening in education, what was happening financially, what's happening. Okay, we bring in experts to give advice, to give tips, or whatever. And those events
Mm,
we sold out, and so things were
love
going
it.
really, really well. Blah blah blah. Life is wonderful. And then March 2020 happened, and New York City
Hmm.
and the rest of the United States
World
shut down, and the world
shut
shut.
down. Right.
And I think for like the first couple of weeks, people were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll be back at it." Like, just a couple of weeks, and then
Right.
people,
This COVID thing is not no big deal.
and then they were like, "Oh, wait, this might last a little bit longer." So then I started getting phone calls. Hey, Kamara, I kind of miss like us getting together and having these happy hours. I miss us having these town halls. I miss us like coming together in community. Can we do something similar? And I was like, yeah, sure. There's this thing called Zoom, which I'd already been familiar with because I had done a lot of virtual work. So I knew a lot of the virtual platforms before
Yep.
COVID
Yeah,
even
me too.
hit.
Hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, let's do Zoom. And so the first one was very US focused, and then I started getting a conversation. Then I started getting messages and DMs. There were like Black women from all over the world who were like, can you do things that are a little bit more global? So then we started thinking
Mm,
more of a diasporic community, and so we had quite a few successful Zoom calls that happened. And then anyway, we were Zoom bombed attacked by a white terrorist organization. I won't go into all of what happened, but as a result of that, and into some way, I kind of think them. I created a YouTube channel that then sort of spiraled into the brand, that then spiraled into like being much more intentional about the spaces that we're creating, the things that we're trying to do to elevate our stories, elevate our voices, come together and celebrate our differences,
right.
and really say like it doesn't matter how we were raised, what language we speak, whether we're more comfortable in ebonics or quote unquote traditional middle class American vernacular, whatever the case
Right.
may be, we can all come together and love on each other as women in a space, as Black women across the African Caribbean diaspora in a space, and just continue that kind of dialogue and that conversation. We are not a monolith, which is why I think it's so important that we create spaces where everyone feels valued, heard, affirmed.
Yes.
Um, but ultimately, it's just about creating safety. And if people feel like here's a space where I can kind of like relax and I can,
Hmm.
I think a lot about the movie Waiting to Exhale, which used to be one of my favorite movies. Didn't know really what they were talking about because I was like 11, 12 when it
We were
first came
kids, yeah. We're like, oh, she burned his car. Like I remember that scene. I remember. I gotta rewatch that now.
But now, like they did some really intentionalities in
Hmm.
the direction where they were like,
Yeah,
and I
it's
was
gonna hit different. As an adult,
like,
I think Waiting to Exhale is gonna hit different. So shout
yeah,
out to the ladies who starred in that. Angela Bassett, one of my favorite actresses.
yes,
We
love
gotta
me.
revisit. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Layla Rashawn,
Yes.
late great Whitney.
Hmm.
So beautiful. So I just think that I think a lot about how, and this is my point too. Themes from my childhood are now coming together in
Yep.
lots of ways here in my adulthood. All right. So you mentioned the election. Do you mind if we go here for a second?
No, we can go here. We can absolutely go here. Time capsule time. So yeah, we can definitely go.
I think that I think I want to validate everyone's feelings and fears. Period.
Yeah.
Whatever you're afraid of, whatever emotions you're going through. It definitely hit like we got hit by the solar plexus. I used to play soccer. And I don't know if you ever played soccer, but sometimes the ball comes right for your solar plexus, and even though you tighten up your muscles and you're ready for it, it still knocks the wind out of you. And you're
All the
literally
wins.
and they had to tell you, you gotta breathe, and you're thinking,
Mm.
"Ah, I can't
Right. You're like, I'm out of
breathe.
breath. How am I supposed to breathe? I have no breath.
I'm out of the breath. It literally knocked the breath out of me. And
Right.
so I think that a lot of us collectively may felt that way. I think we were bracing for the outcome that did happen, but I still think that like the win, the sales, a lot of things were knocked off. And it just continues to remind me over and over again. You said a lot about the group project, and oftentimes in the group project, someone has assigned us who our mates are going to be. And I've realized, the most successful projects, like your company, my company, other people we decide are going to be on our group. And I
When you
think,
pick the members of the team now. Yeah.
okay. And I think that we have to be at a time and place where we pick the members of our team.
Oh,
and we decide how things are going to go. And you might say, well, how does that help us in the larger structure of what is going on in
right,
a structure and in an environment that is has never really been set up for our success? And I think that this is the thing that we have to grapple with. Something that I talked about with my parents too. They went to Yale University. All of their children are have bachelor's and master's degrees from some of the top universities in the United States,
right,
and yet and still we have to constantly be two times better. We have to
right.
constantly be out here grinding and working and XYZ, working hard, um, and still going through a lot of stressors, emotional trauma, dealing with all these microaggressions in the workplace. I mean, there's
Hmm.
all kinds of things that we have to go through. So we did XYZ. And even when we do XYZ, we're still not allowed to go past this glass ceiling. So I've
Right.
decided, and so we have not talked in a while.
We have it. This is it. This is it.
So this is the conversation, but I had already been looking into it, but now I've gone in further and I've traced my lineage back to my indigenous roots. Yeah, okay. And the idea is to really use our indigenous status to create our own governance and our own way of being. So I'm like, listen, I've been talking about let's diverse ourselves from the structures that shackle us. And I'm
Hmm.
saying here are some legal ways that we can start doing and thinking through those things. The other
Right.
piece is I have this housing for all campaign .org. You guys can go to the website. The last one that I just did was about how do you protect your assets. And one of those things is creating a family bank. And some people might be listening. Oh, well, I don't have $1 million. So I'm going to create a family bank. You don't need $1 million to start a
Mm-mm.
Baby, all you need is just one little paycheck, and we can figure out the structure. Because the idea is
Right.
you put the structure together, and then the family comes together and builds the wealth. So, for example, why would you create a family bank? Well, a lot of us want to own homes.
Right.
That's one thing to home ownership. Where do we go to own a home? Most of us don't have cash. We have to get a mortgage. Where do we
Right.
go to get a mortgage? We go to a company whose entire structure and being is against Black folk. It's just the way that it
Mm.
goes.
Right. The
So
financial institutions. Yep.
financial institutions, I won't name names, but you know exactly which financial institutions I'm talking about.
And some of
So,
them have been getting slapped time and time again for clear discrimination practices against minorities. Wells Fargo.
right.
Anyway.
Okay. And on top of that, they get bailouts from the government. So everybody worried about welfare, but these banks are getting multi-millions, billions of dollars in corporate welfare dollars. And if
Thank
my
you.
child don't even get me started because we can go a whole nother way. But let's think about this for a second. When you pay your mortgage with your interest rate and all that, you
Hmm.
are spending your money to enrich somebody else's family. Those
Yeah.
banks are owned by families. Okay. They're
Yep.
named after families. They're owned by families.
Right.
So instead of doing that, you could create a family bank and the family gives you the mortgage, comes together, and you spend your money back into your family. And so instead of
Mm.
putting your money in enriching other families, you are enriching your family.
Right.
Now, some of our families are a little trifling, so that's why maybe it's not family by blood. Maybe it's family by friend. Maybe it's family
Right.
by your sister, your brother that you know from another mother, right? Or
Maybe
maybe
it's your founder family, founders coming together. Maybe whoever, folks that
whoever.
are like minded. That's who needs to be a part of the team on this group project, are the people that you know are like minded. So I'm feeling what you're putting down. I'm digging what you're putting
Okay,
down.
okay, okay. Well, that's not one of the ways that we divest ourselves from the
Yeah.
infrastructure that shackles.
Hmm.
Yes, honey.
I love it. I love it. And it's so funny because there's also been this talk about the Exodus, right? Like biblical prophecies, will come to fruition. But people are looking to say, I don't know if I can stay here. I don't know if the next 4 years is going to create a space where I'm feeling a lot of antagonism and just foolishness, particularly for Black women. Because anybody that walks down the street knows me and knows who I voted for. Period. Right? 9 times out of 10, you know who I voted for. That's just the numbers. And so, but you're looking at them and saying, I know also where the majority of you fall, and
Right,
it's literally against me. And so I've been having this whole back and forth feeling of where are the spaces that we can go and feel safe and feel heard and feel affirmed, particularly in these next 4 years and many years to come. So what would you say to that? What would you say to Black women now who are like, what else do we do? So I like this idea of divesting from traditional infrastructures and creating our own. What are some of the other things that you think Black women can do?
I mean, you certainly mentioned it, but of course, not everybody has the
The means,
wherewithal or the
right?
means, or even the I don't want to use the word strength, but their family is firmly rooted here, and I understand that. And so it's a
Yeah,
hard thing to say, just uproot yourself or try to
and go
figure
move to St.
out
Lucia or something.
right.
Right.
And that's also making an assumption that those people want us. I mean, that's also like I think it was Canada who was like, America, can you please stay your crazy asses right right down there?
We good. We don't need y'all. We
We
just stay
good.
right there. Stay your
We do
crazy ass.
not need y'all. Okay. So please do.
Close the borders immediately. That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, I think that we're gonna have to find these moments of joy. I think we're gonna have to continue to find moments of joy, and I think that um, we're going to have to create physical spaces. I think digital spaces, virtual spaces where we can convene. And I think that we need to lean into our joy and we need to lean into
Yeah.
our laughter. I do try to recall, like, really, our ancestors have gone through so much more than we're about to see in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not to say that what we're going to see in the next 4 years is right or we should be going through it. I just say that I draw strength from the idea that we've done this before. We have always not only survived but thrived. I think there's a
Hmm.
meme going around there that said something like, um, something along the lines of, because of all the things Black people have been able to do and people trying to kill us and we still be able to survive and thrive, really we should just be immortal. I mean, that's like he was,
Apparently, we are.
we should just, we baby's kids, we don't die, we
I'm just saying. I was just about to say that. We don't die. We multiplied. I remember that they would just. Oh Lord, child. We just keep coming. Just
Anyways,
keep
kids.
coming.
But I think that these are gonna have to be the moments. I'm not gonna say that I won't be trying. I'm not gonna tell people to flippantly just move outside the United States necessarily. Though I would say if you can't move outside the United States, I just had an interesting conversation around the power of the black dollar. And we know the power of the black dollar here
Woof.
in the United States. It's
Yeah.
I forget the exact number, but it's
I
worth
think it's eight
uh,
trillion or something. I think
yeah,
was the
it's
last
it's
number.
insane. And so let me be clear. And I also want to tell this to my fellow people of color. Just I want to look
Hmm.
at y'all and just give you a little message. When the orange man, who's the president elect, says that he wants people to be mass deported, he's not looking at people like Kimba and I. White people
Mm-mm.
don't want us to go nowhere because they have learned how to propagate off of our intelligence, off of everything about us. They understand that if we actually leave, what in the world are they going to do with themselves? So they're going to make it. I foresee that they will actually make it very difficult for Black people to leave this country. Not that they're going to make it easy for us to want to stay here. Don't
Uh,
get me twisted there.
right.
Right, but
Right.
they don't want us to actually leave. So all y'all other ones who thought you were safe, y'all were the right minority, whatever it is that you thought about yourself. He's talking it to y'all. He ain't talking about us. He don't want us to go nowhere. Okay.
Right.
But that's actually, there's a little bit of, there should be strength in that knowledge.
Mm.
Right? Because
Right.
like, what can we do with that? So what can we do with those trillions of dollars that don't circulate in the Black community not more than 60 seconds, right?
Exactly.
Like, what can we do to ensure that it does continue to circulate in the Black community? What kind of digital economy can we create? What kind of structures can we create so we don't run into the decimation of what happened to Black Wall Street and many of the Black Wall Street
Mm.
across the United States, and the devastation of a lot of our communities of wealth. Let me be
Right.
clear, these communities were wealthy
Yes.
communities.
Yes.
Um,
Successful, wealthy, independent communities, like not codependent on any other communities. They were their own banks and doctors' offices and all the things, schools.
schools, and so in some ways we have an opportunity to go back there, but with the knowledge of knowing how do we ensure that we're protected when we do those things.
Yeah.
So I think like that's one. But the other thing is, someone was like, if you send $20 to Africa, that $20 will stretch a long time. So we decided, like, let's just start buying up. I'm not trying to be funny, but like, let's buy up some land in Africa. Do
Right.
we want to create our own country? I mean, Liberia was created off of that in the 1950. I can't remember exactly what, 1950.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, who's to say that we can't do things of this nature? Right? We have certain blueprints. We have a Marcus Garvey, we have a Malcolm X, we have Black Panther Party, we have our former Black Wall Street. But what we had that they didn't have was what actually happened afterwards. And now we can study that history and shore up against that. And then
Right.
also think about, okay, future thinking, forward thinking, where are we going? And with this age of technology, with the digital currencies, with virtual reality, with blockchain, what are the ways that we can ensure that we don't see the decimation of things that we put forward again? So anyway, so I say that to say that, like, I think there is still hope. That is the optimism in me,
Right.
a solution builder in me. That being said, trust me, I took a few days and I was like, I ain't talking to not one white person, so don't even hit me up, child.
Don't look at me sideways. Don't do none of it because I'm not. I wasn't the one ordered to.
Okay,
Okay.
so I was like,
Because we can't
not
count y'all for
today,
nothing.
not
Y'all
today,
backstabbing asses. We can't do it.
not today, Rufus, and you know, uh,
Not today, Rufus. Look, look. This is how we were. We like, look. If anybody calling,
child. Okay, so
listen. So no, and it's just, it's, oh, you know,
so
I
just
want to,
let
I
the
want to.
marinade and cooking on, because I mean, you know, all the other stuff, but I was like, baby, I got it. I've been focused on. I'm like, I'm focused, man. Okay, Jay Z, I'm here, focused, man.
We gotta focus. We gotta figure it out. And like you said, you know, we may have misquoted the numbers, but I know that with the spending dollar that the Black community has, we could potentially be the eighth largest country in the world. That number I know. It's definitely the eighth largest country by way of GDP. So if we took all the dollars that we spend and created our own little country, technically we'd be the eighth. And so the idea is that, like you said, they can't afford these powers that wanna be.
Okay. Please don't talk to me not one more time about no DEI, because we already know who the true DEI folks. And we've always, okay, as Black folk, we've always known this anyway. I mean, this is why Uncle Nearest, uh, the man. I mean, we had Einstein that stole from his black slave, Benjamin
Exactly.
Franklin. But so many of them stole ideas from their black
And
counterparts.
they'll never get their
They'll
their
never get their
due.
credit. Okay,
Mm-mm, never
so
get their credit. Never get what they're owed. But like you said, to Uncle Nearest's point, who was the guy that took their stuff? Who was the whiskey company? Jim
Jack Daniels. Hey,
Jack
Jack.
Daniels. I'm
Here's
saying
this
Jim.
not
Come on,
you.
Jack. Hit the road, Jack. That's where that song
Okay.
comes from. No, I don't know, but I just made that up. But it does now. Hit the road, Jack, because you just stole the people's stuff.
Okay. So now I'm
So
looking at all these people who are getting appointments who have nothing to do with any of the things that they're being appointed for. Literally no experience. No experience. Nothing on that resume that says anything that they know. And I'm sitting there like, hello. I get it. So their criteria is white. That's it. I mean, what other criteria could they possibly use?
So
So
right. So you talk about DEI. It's like, okay, that's the diversity because it's diversity in qualification. Because now they're saying, well, we're looking at candidates across the board that may or may not have experience. You're basically looking at people who don't have no experience, but all you got to be is white. That's the diversity. That's what you're looking for. You like
that's all
no
we need.
experience necessary. So, and I don't know what other job is hiring with people who just ain't got no experience at all. Like
At all. I was
just
like,
dumb as a
what?
box of rocks, child. I can't.
They can't. You know, even like I have a whole cadre of clients. I get referred all the time. I've been sending out proposals and they have to go through my entire client list. They need a referral. I'm
Mm.
like, are we serious right now? The proof is in the pudding. Just Google me, bitch. Like I
Just
just
go
want to say
right.
that. Just Google me.
Just look for me. Just put my first and last name
Just
in.
put
You
my
get
name up in
hundreds of
there.
pages. Google sick of me. Google sick of you because we got enough to say. We've been in all the places, in enough of the places. And but again, it's a slap in the face to, like you said, all the hard work, all the blood, sweat, and tears. We had to always, I think they call it the John Henry factor. You got to run faster, you got to jump higher, and it will never, according to this country in today's climate, it will never be enough. It will
It
never
will
be enough.
never be enough.
And so, you know, how discouraging, but in the meantime, how do we continue to uplift and, you know, hold ourselves, hold the beautiful black women that come behind us, hold our daughters, our sisters,
Mhm.
you know, together, child. Because we are just like, what in the hell is the point?
Where in the
What is
world?
the point?
No. But we're here on this earth. I believe
Still killing
the
it.
ancestors came together and knew what they were doing when they created little Kumara. Uh,
Hmm.
that I am born for this time, as difficult as it may be. But the ancestors are here rooting for us. They got our back. They hold us down. I don't know if you're into spirituality,
I am.
uh, but I will go places. And this will tell you something too. I will go places and people can't help themselves. Boy, the devil lives lots of places, Lord. And they'll be like, oh, Kamara, I've had people literally say, I tried to put a hex on you, but you have such powerful family ancestors that they protect you all the time. I said, uh huh, I know. That's why I'm not worried about you.
Who are these people? Who are these little hoodoo people?
I can't even because unfortunately, when you are walking
But
in
are
your
they? Yeah. Wait. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me go. Say what you about to say, girl. When you are walking in your, go ahead. Keep going.
when you're walking in your divine right, it
Hmm.
will attract both the light and the darkness. And those who live in the darkness will come and really try you.
Right.
And they say things to you because they want to put the fear of the darkness in you. And that's why they were open to telling me some crazy stuff. And I was like, well, as I know, I walk in the light of my ancestors.
Right. And neither shall you nor no other foolishness penetrate the light, baby.
Baby, let's get it started.
Well, they tried. Hey, but we gonna finish it,
We
okay?
gonna, we are going to. So I could talk a whole bunch of other stuff about spirituality, how
Oh
people
yeah,
are.
we gonna come back and do. Oh, that's a whole. Honestly, we gonna come back and talk about that because that's a whole nother bag, whole nother bag. And child, you'd be surprised sometimes where that vibe, that darkness vibe, even comes from. You sometimes it'd be the people who sit on the front lines and watch you the most. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
you'd
yeah.
be like, y'all ain't got nothing else to do, like.
It's so crazy. I'm like, I don't think about you. Why are you? Why am I living rent free in your head? Should I start charging you rent? Because I need some money.
Because I'm in there running around. No wonder I'm tired. I'm running in your thoughts, girl. I'm ready to sit down. We gotta talk about that and how to find true allies. And so,
Mhm.
when we met, I think when we first met, you were a judge in a pitch competition that I was doing.
Yes.
And it was a beautiful experience because I was like, okay, sis, I think I had seen you somewhere else. And then I was like, look at her being the pitch judge. And I just felt nothing but continued love and support. First of all, y'all, okay, clearly I won the pitch competition. Let's just go with that. Let's just start with that.
Let's start with that.
And it was one of the biggest pitch competition checks that I had won. It was $250,000, a quarter of $1 million. And Quamara was part of that judge panel. And I just felt nothing but love and support. And I was like, come through, sis. You know what I'm saying? Not that she owed me anything. I had to get on that stage and do what I do, light it on
That's right.
fire.
That's right.
And but it was just like I gotta stay connected to this sister. And I remember we had taken pictures before the pitch competition, then of course we won, took more pictures,
Yes,
and we have not stopped being in touch and hung out a few times,
I got a few
done
times.
crazy stuff
You've
together.
been working on some panels for me, so I really appreciate the love there,
Absolutely.
and coming down, and yeah, and then we just keyed, and but your point is there's energy
Yeah.
that's being exchanged and positive energy, and we may not talk every day. You don't need to. We just feel the love,
No.
feel the energy, like you said, and
Absolutely. And the level of support that, because to me, I keep reminding people, especially as of late, the support is an action word. Y'all need to stop saying you're going to support people. And when you're not liking, commenting, sharing, buying, any of that, like, where's the action? That's what we need to get into. Y'all stay doing stuff for everybody else, but what we doing for ourselves, right? And so I know Kwamara knows if she texts me, I got her. If I can help, I will, and vice versa. And
yeah,
that's what it's all about, like you said, it doesn't have to be an everyday touch base, but I know, like, I got you, sis. So if you need me and I can be there, I got you.
yeah,
And to me, that's the making of beautiful relationships, safe spaces, broadening your network, and just giving in ways that you would want others to give to you. It's been a beautiful ride. And we've only met, what was that? Was that 2 years ago? I
I
don't
think that
even
was
know
two
now.
years ago. Girl,
It
I'm
might
so
have
terrible
been.
with time nowadays. I'm like, oh Lord. But I think it was 2 years ago, girl.
Girl, we're gonna be good with time because we're gonna be like, well, what day is it? Because it's gonna have to get to 2020, 2030. Oh no, wait, 2029. What was the year?
Wait, what? What you talking about now, Kimba?
Because when 2025 starts and we got this foolishness going on in the White
Oh,
House, we
okay,
gonna need
okay,
to get to
okay,
2029
okay,
very
okay,
quickly. That's what I'm
okay,
talking about.
Got you.
Which
So
is crazy because to think about 2030 is going to be a new president. Girl, bye. It sounds like so far away, right?
it does, but time flies.
It does. So we're going to be
Yeah.
watching that clock quick.
I think if you watch the clock though, the time
Oh,
goes
it
slow.
goes slow. Okay.
That is the irony of time.
Exactly. When you're having a good time, it goes fast. So hopefully we create spaces where we can have a good time and kiki and laugh and cry together and not watch the clock so that it can fly, child. But
Yes.
we're so hopeful. We're so optimistic. Like you said, we're here and we were made for this time. So, I appreciate your strength and everything that you're doing. So tell us where we can find everything about yes, I am a black woman. I'm a black woman. Wait, what? Tell me the slogan again, because I love it. You usually wear it on T-shirts. I'm surprised you don't
I
have your
do,
shirt
I
on
do, I
today.
do, I do. Yeah, it's not on today, but it is here. Dot dot dot. I'm a black woman. Yes,
Yes,
I
I
matter.
matter. I love it. I love it.
And so, of course, the company is Black Women Matter, but you can find us on IG, YouTube. I am a Black woman. Yes. You can shop our clothes and our swag, blackwomen-matter.com.
Mm.
And then, of course, just me, Kumara Thompson. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kumara Denise on Instagram. And I think that's it. Lord child, my social media team will be like, you messed up somewhere. No, I think that's it.
You didn't tag you like listen, Kumar had like 8 things going on. And then tell us a little bit about how we can find who you target with tech, right? Thompson Educational
Oh
Consulting.
yes, yes, yes. So for Thompson Education and Consulting, we mentor business owners, founders, startup entrepreneurs. We especially think about your culture, your professional development, as well as building out your board. So your board of
Mm.
advisors, your board of directors. That's kind of our bread and butter. We also are very much steeped in the education and the ed tech world. So we work with school districts, schools, any kind of schools, public, rural, private, religious, it does not matter. The
Mm.
important thing is that students are receiving the best high quality education that they can, and that educators feel empowered and supported in the work that they're doing.
I love that. I love that. And do you do anything specifically around Black history by chance? Because I know there's a call for folks that are focused on that.
I mean, when people want to do a Black History program, you're more than welcome to call me. I will say I'm working on something that I'm not quite ready to launch out into the atmosphere. But yes, if you're looking for a uh, uh, Black History Month speaker, you want some ideas around a program, and the same thing is true for Juneteenth. We have a
Hmm.
whole curriculum around the importance of Juneteenth, and we can also do something for Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa also gets overlooked, but
Yes.
we are in the season. It starts the day after Christmas. So if you're also looking for things to help your students celebrate and appreciate Kwanzaa, let us know.
I love that. Yes. And so, okay, so then we've got things to watch out for from Kwamara Denise Thompson, because I know curriculum, it's not even just programming anymore, right? People are looking like, how can I infuse a very specific and intentional curriculum around Black history for my own children, for, friends' children, just so that they have sort of that same level of awareness that you had growing up because your parents were so intentional about saying that whether you're surrounded or in spaces that don't necessarily look like you or feel like you know who you are, right? And where whence you've come. So I
Yeah,
love that. Hmm.
absolutely. Along
Absolutely.
those lines, I do have some resources for Black history programming that you can do year round. And so I'm happy to share that with you, Kimba, if you want to put those in show notes.
Absolutely, we'll do that. So you guys, we'll take a look at that. Well, we'll grab that from Quamara and we'll add that to comments or information down below, specifically if you're on YouTube, and if not, you can check out the Kushae Chronicles site or anywhere on social, and we can get you the information. So I love it. All right, so now we're wrapping up. Any last words that you would have to say, Quamara, about the work that you do before we go into Kushae catastrophes, girl?
Uh, I deal in three currencies. We talked about the power of the black dollar, but the currencies that I deal with are in empathy, knowledge sharing, and love. So,
Mm.
but I'll just leave it there.
I love that. Oh, you just warmed my heart. I love it. I love it. And the empathy piece is huge. Huge, huge, because people just, like you said, they want to be seen. So thank you so much. All right, my darling. So let's roll into Couché catastrophes because everybody's got one or some or heard from a friend of a friend. Have you thought about now? You know, people. I be telling folks, y'all better have y'all local Kushae catastrophe stories, and they don't be prepared, child. But you know, sometimes you don't need to put your business in the street. I get that. So I'm going to give you a prompt instead, Kamara.
There you go, sis.
Okay, very good. Now, your mom is an OBGYN. So clearly she is the doctor of all doctors when it comes to Kushays.
Yeah, okay.
It is what it is. So you would think that a child of an OBGYN would not be shy to have conversations. I mean, your mom knows everything. She do. She do. So, you know, and you said you emulated some of her style and have always felt free. Now, tell me what's one thing that you absolutely cannot talk to your mom about when it comes to like intimacy or sex.
um, I mean, if I hadn't lived with previous boyfriends, my mother might still believe I'm a virgin.
In this big age, I mean, come on, Dr. Jackson. It's Dr. Jackson if you're nasty. You know what I'm saying? Come on, Dr. Jackson.
No, I will say that I'm actually pretty private around my private life in
Mm.
general. That being said, I remember this maybe this is a couche catastrophe now that I'm thinking about it. I used to live in London. I did study abroad there. So I was probably 21 or 22 years old. But anyway, in London, the water is hard. It's not like our nice water that keeps us
Yeah.
skin nice and soft and supple and all the good things. And I was noticing that like my crotch was like, and I shaved and all that. I could see it. So I'm like, it's
Right.
like this normal moisturized self. Like it was getting this like weird, like white film. I was like, what is this?
Ashy.
It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was looking ashy. I was like, my baby looking ashy. Like, what's going on? So my parents came to visit. And so I think both my parents were there. And I took my mom into my bedroom and I was like, can you take a look at this? And I literally dropped my pants, spread my legs open. She was
Like,
like,
nah.
why is this my child?
Listen, she does it for everybody else. I mean,
I was like, can you tell me what this is? She was like, it just looks like eczema. I was like, oh, okay. Because
okay,
she was like,
right.
the water's hard. It's not
Mm.
like the minerals and stuff that it does here. So it's drying out your skin. So that's
Oh,
when I was like, oh, okay, I gotta put a little oil and stuff on my little kitty. So
right. Oh,
um,
all right. So shout out to, moms for coming through with the mystery Couche affliction. And and Couche does have products for vulva dryness. Now that is the vulva. It's when
see,
it's
look
dry.
at
We
that.
got a
Yes,
little
it was.
plug.
It was. You're absolutely right. Thank you. It was the vulva.
Yes, it was the vulva. So yes, we do have a
I was
silk body
like,
oil. We have a balm just in case you got vulva dryness. So don't be like Komara, because you ain't got your mama's not a doctor. I'm just y'all trying to help you out. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that catastrophe because that is definitely a catastrophe. Because then here's what happens if you are intimate, then you're kind of embarrassed because you're like, it looks weird. So I don't even know you're gonna feel like
exactly.
I
Like,
got something.
yeah, and it wasn't like itchy or anything. It was just like this weird. I'm like, what's going on? So, girl, I was like, "What's?" My mom was like, "I came over here to take you to dinner, not to see your crotch." Anyway,
Dr. Jackson. I love the fact that her name is Dr. Jackson. I think it's hilarious.
I'm like, "Listen, okay." I
Get it
mean, you didn't
together.
see it before multiple times. I mean, when I was a baby, you didn't see
Of
like
course.
women's ones, and
But sometimes when it's too close, it's too close. My co-founder is an OBGYN and she swears I have been begging her for a pap smear since we've met. And I'm like, well, you could save a sister a copay, but you acting funny.
I
So
mean, it's a
sometimes it's too
different
close.
thing. I would say there was a lot of perks being the doctor's kid because um, all my doctors were her friends, and but they kept the HIPAA thing, so my mom didn't really know what was going on. My mom
Of
thought it was
course, but
important
still.
for privacy. So like, I mean, her best friend still to this day were my OBGYNs when I was living back home in New Jersey.
Yes.
All up in the crotch all the time.
And like you said,
And
with
then I'm
HIPAA and
seeing
the
it from like Thanksgiving dinner, like, hey,
hey girl, hey, gotta get my prescription. No. I mean, it could have been awkward, but I think it's beautiful. I mean, I know I've phoned a friend on several occasions with my co-founder, like, girl, I'm gonna need you to just run this through the pharmacy right quick because I ain't got time. I got this UTI. I'm about to hit up this,
okay.
get on a plane. Like been there, done that, and I'm a patient of hers also. So in case of emergency, but not everybody has the phone a friend or phone your doctor capability. You know what I mean? And
But if
so
we create a ecosystem, maybe we could have those kinds of things for each other.
absolutely, absolutely.
We don't need to be in a 10 block radius like we did back in the day. When we're talking about, sorry, I know we're trying, I know you were trying to wrap up, but we were
No,
talking
we
about
good. Keep talking, girl. No, virtual
those Black Wall
global.
Street fell across. One of the things that was true was that they were in a radius where people could come in and destroy homes and destroy physicality, what was happening. But
True.
if we create an ecosystem that's virtual, where we can just be cross borders, where we
Mm.
can have that phone a friend, phone a girl, like, listen, I need this prescription real quick. Can you help a sister out? Like, I got, I think I got a little eczema. Like, what's the thing? My
What's
baby's a
going
little
on? Right.
pouty. Like, boom, boom, boom. Who can I call? And it used to be, someone in your neighborhood, but now the neighborhood could be global.
Right. Oh, okay. You got me thinking because, like you said, with Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, shout out to Black Wall Street. Like you said, there was a physical location that was bombed and burned to smithereens. And so when you don't have the ability to do that, there's very little you can do to dismantle a virtual network. So how does that? Ooh, okay. Okay. We're gonna put a pin in that. We got to make
Put
that
a
work.
pin on that. Put a pin in it.
We got to
Uh,
make it work. And then we just, sometimes we struggle with supporting in ways that I think we used to. And so we going to have a come to Jesus meeting at first. The first meeting, y'all, we going to focus on support being a verb. That's what we going to. And honestly, I'm telling people like, don't put me in the communities because I've been, people have been hitting me up like, hey, we've got this community of support and Black women are doing this and Facebook and they're looking at different platforms. And that's all well and good. But I was like, I want it to be penalizing. Like I want us to keep a track record who's supporting, who's not, and if you're not, you out
mm,
because we don't have time to waste. We can no longer stand by and not put our money where our mouth is. Period. End of story. So it needs to be punitive. I'm sorry. Like every quarter, you better be buying from a Black business, supporting a Black somebody by connecting them to somebody. Like you need to be doing 3 action things per quarter. That's me. And if you're not doing that, you get one warning. Okay, Miss Thompson can tell you get one write up, and then you're out. Because if you're not going to support, then we don't have time. And so
I love that. And
I'm in
support is an
favor.
action word, like you
It
said, and so is
is
love. That's why I was like, love is action too. So you can say you love us all the time, but there's no action behind it. What that mean?
exactly. So allies, we need y'all at these. If y'all, we gonna have a separate ally meeting, but we also need to see the support because you can't say one thing and do another. So this is the time to make it work. So yeah, I'm down for it. So we gonna start hitting people over the head now. You got $1, I'm gonna need about 10 cents. That's all I need. So anyway, my love. All right, so we are going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. I mean, we went in like 80 different
We
directions, but I
did, we
love
did.
it. But this is what happens with Kushae Chronicles. We do real talk, real women, and real health, and we covered all 3 of them, child. So this is what the people wanted. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. Thank you
Very
so
good.
much for having me, everyone. Peace.
Thank you, Kumar. I appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, gentle listeners, you are now tuning out on this amazing episode of Kushae Chronicles. We'll see you guys next time. Ciao.